You can see we are here at the Padron's farm, Estancia, and you can see the tobacco just started to grow, and all these, you can see all these Padron's future cigars. Beautiful. It's not already growing up, but it's amazing. And you can see the soil that we are talking about here. This is the soil to give you the consistency and the strength and the flavors I provided on the cigars all around. Great big area. Of tobaccos being grown all around.
That's my goal. My goal is to get to that point where 8 years difference. So, you know, I'm much more comfortable saying vertically integrated from top to bottom 100%, and that's the key.
From seed to smoke.
Yeah, because there's a lot of families. I mean, obviously the Fuente family. There's a lot of people in this business that obviously are trying to. Well, not the Fuentes have been around for since before I was born. 110. But the point is that when you have a big production, like they do, which is a big production, it's very difficult to be completely vertically integrated because you don't. I mean, you know, if I had the time to show you what we have for what we produce, which is 7.5 million, we have 30 warehouses here in Esteli filled, you know, with tobacco. With this, it is the infrastructure necessary, the human side of it too. Having people capable of running the operation is also another. That's the biggest. One of the biggest threats that we have here is the human factor. You know, how many? I just can't go to Harvard and get a guy to come and work in the tobacco. The tobacco is something that you have to, like Lionel, who's our agronomist. Lionel is our agronomist. He's in charge of all of our farming operations. Lionel is someone that obviously, aside from being educated as an engineer, agriculture engineer, much more important than that is his experience. His experience in the farms, because there's a big difference between theory and practice. And you know, you could have all the degrees that you want, and when you come here, it's a totally different ballgame. And it's not just, you know, knowing about the soil. It's knowing how to manage the people that are working the farm. How do you keep your costs down, that they don't steal, that this or that. You know, you have at any given time, you may have 150 people working on this farm, like during the harvest. ¿Cuántas personas habían trabajando aquí cuando se comenzó la cosecha?
La cosecha nosotros comenzamos siempre 3 personas por manzana, tenemos por lo menos 77 personas trabajando.
Pero para la siembra, pues más de eso.
Correcto, teníamos 98.
Okay, so when we're actually planting, it's about 100 people. Now it comes down to about 70 people. But those are 70 that you have to be watching, you have to tell them what to do, you have to know how to run a farm. So, you know, the vertical integration story is something that we've been preaching for many years. There's a lot of companies now that are trying to go that route, and that's good, and I'm happy for them, but there's a big difference between saying it and actually doing it. So that's all I can say about that. But.
Not passionate about this or anything. Right?
No. Oh shit! Listen, my dad has built this company on the theory of vertical integration. Because when my dad started this company, that he started with $600, there weren't any friends. Okay, there were no friends. He didn't have money. He had competitors coming after him because he was rising, and he said the only way I can survive here is if I don't have debt. Okay, if I'm totally, I spend and I put back into my business what I can, and I don't go beyond that. And number two, if I control what I'm doing, and that's the only way. So that's why it has taken us 52 years to get to 7.5 million cigars and what you see here. But our company, you know, is not about marketing. The marketing is obviously important, but what the foundation is what's important. So, and this foundation is a foundation that has been built over 52 years. This isn't something that happened in 5 years. So there's a lot of things that come into play when you talk about vertical integration. And I can tell you that my dad was at the forefront of that, because he always says a story about, you know, one time, you know, in the 80s where we used to buy our boxes. So listen to how my dad, you know, it's funny when I hear this story. I think about the story. I'm like, man, that's why we are where we are. So my dad it's in the 80s. You know, we're in the middle of, you know, the company's growing, and we used to buy our boxes from a company in Tampa called Autocraft Box Corporation. Okay, they were a good company. I mean, no problem. But my dad places an order for boxes, the boxes don't come. So imagine he's making cigars, he's got orders, he can't sell because he doesn't have boxes. Finally, he says, you know what? Screw this. I'm going to make my own boxes. And that's how we started making boxes. And from that point on, we've never had to buy a box from anyone. So now, if we have a problem with boxes, it's our fault. It's not anybody else's fault. It's not someone that's holding back a shipment. No. So those things, that is the type of thing that, you know, to sell 7.5 million cigars a year without a sales force. You know, who is our sales force? You guys are our sales force. You know?
You don't need a sales force.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, no, I mean, I never say that because, you know, we don't want to, you don't want to sound cocky or anything, but we're confident in our product, and the consumer has a final say. You know what I mean? I can't force a consumer to smoke our cigar, but I'm very proud that they choose to smoke our cigar.
From an aficionado and a retailer, the one thing I love about Patron is whether he's been coming in or smoking for years, or he's fairly new and he's trying to experiment, I know that I can take him to my Patrons and it will be a wonderful cigar. I don't have to worry about him getting something that burns funny or tastes funny or anything. He will have an enjoyable, and that's important to me because I want him to come back again and have a wonderful experience. And
of course,
so
listen,
that's one thing we love.
The thing. It's consistency. It's consistency. You need to be consistent. Okay, that's why, you know, we've never gone crazy. You know, we are very steady. We just do our thing. We don't pay it. We're focused on what we have to be focused on. Our focus is building our business. It's solidifying our customers, ensuring the quality. And the only way you can do all those things is if you don't keep your eye off the 8 ball. The 8 ball is what's important. I tell everybody in my family, I say, forget about all the other stuff. Forget about the internet, social media. Forget about all that stuff. Focus on what we have in front of us, which is maintaining the quality of the product. And then everything else, of course, social media is important, all those things. But the most important thing is this. You know, what's happening here, the production, all of those things. That's why the kitchen, this is the kitchen. And like any restaurant, if the kitchen fails, the restaurant fails. So, I mean, I tell everybody, you know, it's important to sell, but you can't sell if you don't have a good product. So,
well, I tell you, I have a bag of the ones, the comebacks. I never have a Patron in that bag. No. Never. I never have one
Patron is the only cigar I can smoke around my mom, and she doesn't complain. She actually likes the cigar.
Well, that's good. That's good. That's important. It's important. You want are you Cuban?
Yeah.
Ah, okay.
My friend Eric worked for your father in Miami. He told me that.
Eric, what's his name?
What's his last name, babe?
I know
so many Eric. He has a beard.
Oh, Eric Paradoa.
Paradoa, yeah.
Of course.
So he told me that, yeah, like your dad is such a hard worker, and he's so old school. He still does accounting by hand, and
dude, my dad is 90. My dad is gonna be 90 years old in June, and he is in that car right now, probably wishing he was right here, talking to you guys. You know, but you know he trusts me, thank God. He's done a few things right. Okay. Puts a lot of difficulty on your product. You know, we're in the business, Padron is in the business of building a brand. Okay, we have a brand that people respect and that want people to respect. We're not looking at the numbers. I mean, in terms of how many cigars we sell. Okay, if we sell 7.5, it's great. If we sell 7, I'm happy. You know, it's a family business, so it's not like, you know, we don't have that gun to our head where we say, oh, you gotta grow 10% this year, you gotta grow 20, because the minute in this business, the minute you get into that mentality, then you start to, there's sacrifices that you have to make, and you know, we don't want to put at risk, you know, everything that we've done for the last 50 years for the sake of increasing 10% from one year to the next. You know, it's like, not quite from the beginning, but we're going to start off in the sorting and deveining, and then I'm going to take you over to see some of the fermentation of the wrappers and all of that, how we do it. Hopefully you guys can withstand the smell. It's a little strong in there, but if it's not, you guys can step out. And then we'll head over to the factory, see the factory, and then finally the packaging and final distribution, preparing the ship. Okay. Okay, so we'll walk over to the... Esta más para... Dice que se va a Miami. Okay, so it's up to you. Bueno, aquí tenemos los visitantes de los Estados Unidos y de partes de Europa y de todas partes del mundo que han venido a visitarnos. Les voy a dar una explicación de lo que estamos haciendo aquí para que entiendan y aprendan un poco del sistema de trabajo aquí de Cubanica. So, let me introduce you first. This is Lydia. Lydia has been working with our company for over 38 years. She is in charge of all of the sorting and debating operations here for us in the warehouse. Lydia has a long history with my father. As many of you may know, during the war here in Nicaragua, Esteli was one of the worst and most difficult areas of fighting. To the point that our original factory was burned in 1978, and my father ended up not coming back to Nicaragua for an entire year after that, or not quite immediately after that, but just about 4 months after the burning. He decided not to come because it was too risky for him to be here. The factory kept producing. A lot of the people that were in charge of the factory back then are still in charge of the factory today. Lydia obviously was one of them. And Lydia also took it a step further, and she actually organized a strike in Esteli in the middle of the war, picketing along all the streets of Esteli with our employees, demanding that my dad be allowed to come back to Nicaragua. So obviously Lydia has a very special place in our heart, as do all of our employees, but her for the risk that she took in doing what she did, and obviously, you know, her love for my dad. You can see all the pictures and everything. He hasn't been, like I said, 2 months. He hasn't been here in 7 months. So every time he comes, it's almost like we got to keep the women away because they all want to give him kisses. So, yeah. So just to tell you a little bit about the sorting and debating process. When the tobacco comes in from the farms, the first thing that's done is an initial sorting to see what tobaccos will yield wrapper, okay? The tobaccos that will yield wrapper go in one direction, and the ones that we feel will not yield the wrapper go in another direction, okay? Once that process is done, then all of the wrapper cigars tobacco is brought in here and sorted by grade, by size, you know, so we want to make sure that all of the wrapper is set aside. So when it's fermented much more carefully than any type of tobacco that would be useful for a filler. Okay? So from last year's crop, all of the sorting has already been done. Okay? So we are now planting this year's harvest. So last year's harvest, we finished receiving in around April, May, June, and by October we had already finished sorting. Okay? And then we start deveining the prior year's tobacco. So now we've been deveining, and this is what the deveining is. So if some of you come in close, you'll see. So this is tobacco that's already been fermented. If you smell it, you'll see it smells like ammonia, right? Okay. Whoever wants to take a smell of this, go ahead. It's important that you see it. Put your nose in there. Okay. The family, which is the people that we have here in Nicaragua, they often ask about the quality of a Padron cigar, and I tell people all the time, the reason why we have a quality product is because we have quality people that work with us in the company, and they're conscientious about what they do. Okay, if one of these workers sees that something is wrong, they immediately bring it out to the manager and say, hey, something here doesn't look right. And that's happened on many, many occasions, because inevitably, when you have 700 people working and you have all of these, such a labor-intensive product, it's inevitable that you're going to have some screw-ups, okay?
Oye, yo no quería que murieran el
No, ya le dije. Are there any questions?
No.
Nothing?
What's the moisture content at this stage?
Okay, well, I put percentage-wise, I put it out, but we actually introduced humidity in order for all you had about an extra 12 to 15%. But now, this tobacco, we receive 100 pounds of tobacco.
Here they are specifying the leaves, removing the middle vein. You can see down here.
In the process, it's still a good reason for fillers, but it's important to understand that it's already undergone fermentation.
All around.
But after it leaves
All of them.
this area here, it goes to another area for more
Cleaning and specifying the leaves by size and removing the vein. All the workers are devoted and happy. You can see the dome here. Yes.
For filler and one that's deveined for binder. Okay, and on the binder, the entire leaf, the entire vein is removed. Okay.
Is the vein just a byproduct waste?
No, we use the veins, and you'll see them in the pilones. We use them as a base to absorb humidity. So remember, when you think about tobacco, you have to realize that it's any tobacco leaf could be touched over 300 times before it's actually made into a cigar. Okay, so a lot of the consumers and even retailers are not aware of the intricacies of making cigars. And there's a lot of little details that come into play into producing and having a well-fermented, properly made cigar. Well, including the harvest and all of them. Yeah, because just in the harvest alone, you have the people that harvest the leaf, then you have the leaf in the barn, they gotta put it on the thing, hang it, and then bring it down and take it off, so it's,
Here we are. The fermentation room with Jorge Padrón. And
y cierra la puerta
you
esa.
can see,
Mira, Ariel, cierra esa puerta.
oh, this is fermentation,
Yeah, this is.
and that's how they ferment the cigars. You can see from up
Okay, can you breathe in here?
here.
Okay, so you guys are gonna help me over here. Okay, so after, you know what, Ariel? Okay, so after the tobacco is sorted, okay, remember the initial tobacco that comes in, that we look at it and we say, okay, this is gonna be wrapper, okay? So all of that tobacco that is sorted and then is destined to be wrapper comes here, okay? So everything that you see in this room, okay, is either wrapper or binder, okay? So this gets a completely different fermentation process than the filler, okay? With the wrapper, you have to pay much more attention, to the process. You don't want to break leaves. You want to preserve the beauty of the leaf as it is. Okay, so it takes a lot more attention to detail, and you want to make sure that you're watching it as closely as possible. Okay? So it comes in here. Okay, so if you guys can, so this is a pilón. This is what we call a pilón. All right. When you have a pilón of wrapper, okay, the leaves are tied in hands, which are like this. Right. So here you have 3 hands. Okay. When you have filler, the tobacco is not tied together, it's just loose, and it's fermented loose, okay? When you have wrapper, you have to tie it like this, and then you see that there's uniformity in the length, the sizes are all the same. So from this crop, and this field, and this priming, we may have leaves that are this size, and we may have another pilón that's a little bit longer, so you have a lot of different variations from one harvest of tobacco. You'll have different grades. You have a grade 1 wrapper, a grade 2, a grade 3. You have binders, and then you have half wrappers, half binders that we also take out. So there's a lot of different variations of tobacco that come out of one crop. But just to give you an idea, who wants to?
How many cigars come out of a hand?
It depends. It depends, because all of this tobacco is wrapper, but once we put it through the fermentation, it's possible that some leaves may improve and some may not. So we don't have an exact number, but the amount of tobacco that we have in here for a company our size is a large amount. I mean, it's not. We produce 7.5 million cigars a year, and we produce enough tobacco in the farms to produce 15 million. Wow. So we are producing almost double of what we would use on a regular year. Wow. Okay.
And what do you do with the other stuff?
Oh no, everything's used. Remember, it's aged. It's by the aging process, and that's one of the things that's important in establishing consistency in a cigar blend. You have to have the inventory to do it. Okay. So this is a leaf. Let's see. So I'll be able to make one. Give me your cigar.
Esta es la experiencia de la fermentación. Esta es más nueva, esta más adelantada.
Okay, so here, so you can see the difference in these 2 leaves, right? This more yellow or orange. It looks better than this one, right? But this is not as fermented as this one, okay? So you can tell by smelling it.
Toma nuevo.
Yeah.
You smell that one.
Oh,
see the difference?
Yeah. Terrible.
Alright. So we do not want to make any cigars with these leaves. Okay, if we make a cigar with this, it'll burn your throat. It'll have all of those negative characteristics that you associate with a bad cigar. But this one here,
¿Tú tienes un trabajo ahí más grande?
Tengo
Lo más grande, ¿verdad?
the old man saying to take it easy with you guys with the smell.
They start passing out with the strong
Before you start dropping like roasted.
And it is not too bad now. It does get worse in the morning.
Yeah. Overnight.
We're treating you
Hey,
with...
Jordan, what's the humidity here?
and here, you have to relight. Okay, so for this process, this is what we do. The tobacco comes in here. It could spend a year in here in this fermentation. Remember, like what they're doing right now is they're turning the pilón. So if you look at, the temperatures here for this, it can get up to 130 degrees, okay? In the center of the pilón. That's what creates a fermentation. So what you have to do, because you want to be careful that it doesn't rot or that you don't go overboard, they'll turn it. So to lower the temperature, give it a break, and then get it to heat up again. And then that process, you have to continue it for over a year. So, ¿cada cuánto tiempo están virando estos pilones saliendo? Sí, más o menos cada mes, cada 3 semanas. So every 3 or 4 weeks, they're turning each one of these pilones that you see in this room. That's why you see empty spaces, because we always need space to turn. So every 3 weeks, every one of these pilones is turned once. Okay?
Explícale que ve, esta es la diferencia entre el más crudo.
Bueno, él es que está. Do you notice the difference in the taste? Did it change at all? That tobacco is very.
Not a lot.
Okay.
Not a lot of change.
Not a lot, because it's, but this one is made with the leaf that's less fermented. Okay. But that you can tell already that it's there. That's good to go. Okay. So that's part of what we do here. That is checking those leaves, checking the pilones. At what point is it enough? At what point do you stop the fermentation and say, okay, now we got to put it in a bale and just let it age in a bale? Okay, and that's what's happening here.
Okay. Todo lo que aquí tiene cosecha de este año. Lo que está del año pasado.
Okay, so this is one of the smaller warehouses. Huh?
Willy, que se echen para adelante. Para que oiga. Okay.
As you can see, fermenting tobacco requires a lot of space. Okay. We don't have a lot of space in this complex for fermentation. We have this warehouse, we have that other warehouse we were just in where we have the wrapper, but we have another very big complex on one of our farms where we have almost 80,000 square feet of space, and in there we can hold up to 500,000 pounds of tobacco. I'd love to be able to show you guys that, but for right now you can get an idea of how the tobacco looks when we receive it, you know, the newer tobacco. This is ¿este tabaco de cuándo es?
Esto sí es de la cosecha del año pasado.
Okay, so this is tobacco from last year's crop.
Esto es de la zona de Condega, Santa Rita. Ven para aquí para que la vean.
So, okay. So you guys all got a chance to smell that other tobacco. Smell this.
Oh, like sweet chocolate.
See that? You have to smell it to see the difference. Okay, so this is tobacco this is how it smells when we receive it from the farms. Okay, you can tell the difference between this, not only in the way it smells and the aroma, but also in the color. You know, how it looks like it's whole. There's no broken leaves. Everything looks good. This tobacco is from last year's crop. We still haven't even started working with this. This is still here, sits there. You know, it's fermenting very slowly because we have to give the tobacco time that it needs, and we also need to time it because of the timing that it takes to do the sorting and debating. So we cannot rush anything along. We want to make sure that we have enough tobacco that's ready to go, and there's a chain of sequence that has to take place before it gets to there. Okay, so I just wanted to show you this so you can see. Now here, no. So this you haven't seen yet. Okay, this is also a pilon, but this is the tobacco that's been deveined. I explained to you over there that after they devein it, it has to sit for another 3 months after they do their work. Okay, so this is what that pilon looks like. We call it un burro. Okay, like a donkey. That's what the Spanish word for this is. Okay, and if you can see, it looks completely different than the other pilones that you've seen. Each one, there's a tag because there's different layers of tobacco here. There's different layers of tobacco, and each one has a different classification. Okay, so we keep track of all that. And then this tobacco will sit here for about 3 months before we even touch it again. They'll be turning it, you know, because there's also a thermometer in here to measure the temperature. Okay. ¿Cómo te huele? Llevarlos a la fábrica. ¿Eh? No, porque es muy chiquito eso ahí. Ya eso lo voy a la fábrica. Okay, we're going to go that way again. See, this is the main rolling room for all of our cigars, okay? Here we produce all of the Padron series, 1926 Family Reserve, and all the anniversaries, okay? Behind you, we have some of the awards that we've received from different publications. We have Cigar Aficionado, you have Cigar Journal, and you also have Rob Report, okay? These are awards that we've received over the last 10 years, or more and more, okay? One of the most important things of what we have in here are the people that are working here, okay? As I mentioned in the other sorting and debating, many of the people that you see working here today are people that have been working with us on average between 5 and 10 years, okay? Some of them have been here for much longer than that, 25 years, 30 years. We have brothers and sisters that work together. We have husbands and wives. We have grandmothers with their granddaughters and grandsons that work here. So it's a very unique operation from that standpoint. My dad has made it a point to put an emphasis on the family, and when we've ever needed to have new workers come in, the first people we go to are the people that work here and ask them if they have any family members that need work. So I want to point that out. Another important thing is when my dad started here in 1970, okay, so he was forced to go to Romania. This gentleman here was one of the original four. And his wife Marta, who's over there, she's in charge of all the time. Okay? We also have this gentleman, Ramon, who's not quite as long as Rafael, but just almost as long, almost 42 years. Okay? So Ramon, his wife is a roller. His daughter is in charge of the Damaso wrapper selection. So again, emphasizing the thing of family. Okay? My dad wants to also introduce you to
Fabio. Nice to meet you.
50th anniversary cigar that has been produced in this factory. The one in the white humidor has been made by this gentleman right here. And he has 3 brothers that work here as well. Okay? One of them is in charge of checking for
Cigar rollers at Padrons. All of them working hard. Hola. This is a compressing box. is the Tresidors was doing the exclusivo. So everybody who smokes exclusivo, you should know this guy. And you see how the talent, how the best, the 80th anniversary, eh? She's the roller? Beautiful. Tomorrow? Okay. Every time you after this hard work?
Stay with the group because this is not going to happen again. Tomorrow, all the time in the board.
In the box. So some boxes may be a little bit lighter than others, but your goal is to have that all the cigars be as similar as possible. When you have sun-grown leaves, there's a lot of differences in the shades and tones of the tobacco. So it's a very important part of the process just for aesthetics. You don't want, you don't want to buy a box of cigars and make it look like a rainbow inside. You want there to be uniform. So this is Azucena. Azucena has been here almost longer than I've been here. I used to run around the old factory when I was a little kid, and Azucena she was a cigar roller at that time. She's worked her way up, and she's been with us for almost 40 years. Wow. Azucena is the one in charge of all of this here. And she, of course, oversees that that job is being done properly. She also, there's also other things that are being done here. She's also the banding, okay? So once the cigars are sorted by color, then they're banded, depending on the type of cigar, which is all done on this side, okay? The cigars are banded, and then after they're banded, depending on the type of cigar, if it takes cellophane, they'll put the cellophane on it. If not, it stays without the cellophane and it's bundled without the cellophane. Every cigar that we produce here is shipped to Miami unless it's shipped internationally. All the international shipments are shipped directly from Nicaragua. All of the, everything else goes to the U.S. and then is checked one more time in Miami before we send out to any retailer. So every single cigar undergoes an inspection process here as well as in Miami. Okay? So if you walk, you can see how they band the cigars. Pretty interesting. They're pretty fast at it too.
yeah.
You'll also notice that a lot of all these super premium cigars of ours have a secondary band, which we started using back in the late 90s for counterfeiting. So every single one of those bands is numbered and it has a unique number to it, just to make it more difficult for people to counterfeit the bands and the cigars. Okay? Oh yeah. And he had to tell her to slow down. He got the shot. So are there any questions in here? You guys are too easy. She stole all of it.
En eventos de venta. Pero bueno, por lo menos he visto
Sorting the cigars by color, by size, fix them in the out. You can see the beautiful dark color. Here it's putting the label and the tag for the boxes. Everybody's working so great. Beautiful.
Dile maduro, eso es maduro, sí. Aquí hay natural. ¿Eso chiquitito? Ese es maduro. I don't think so. I had hair on Fermentation.
quiere un dossier. Lo pones ahí.
Beautiful work, you know, it's amazing. And they say why Padron is good. See this.
Accounting work. Howard used to be a cigar buncher, and then we passed over here. Now he's in charge of overseeing production. Rosita is the daughter of the other gentleman I introduced you to over there. She's in charge of all the wrappers, okay, of making sure that the wrappers are what they should be. So,
Is you import from Ecuador?
the wrapper only.
Do you have a farm there? Or is it
No.
You sourced it?
All right, good.
Where'd you,
Hola. Desde Mazo en cellophane, hola. The mazos you can see before labeling.
This tobacco with just natural waters, they'll dunk this hand in the water like this, then they get it and they'll rinse the hand out so the excess water comes off, and they put it together and then they lay it here so it sits overnight. Once that happens, tomorrow they'll come, they'll pick all this tobacco up and they'll put it in the pilon for fermentation. Okay? So again, it's part of the process, part of the fermentation. This is all tobacco that's still raw. It just needs water, time, heat, and then that process will be repeated for anywhere between 12 to 16 months. Okay? So a little bit different than what you saw before, but still the same.
So that won't be a cigar for 2 years.
At least. At least. Vamos a abrir ahí para que vean el campo. ¿Tiene la llave?
Carlos! Carlos!
Okay, so this warehouse is empty right now, right? If you come back in 4 months, you won't be able to move in here because we're going to fill this up. Everything here, all 3 of these warehouses will be completely filled with tobacco, okay? So, again, just wanted you to see, the space required for the amount of tobacco that we're harvesting. And again, this here is probably only about 30% of the space that we have here in Esteli. We also have, like I said before, the other warehouse.
Okay. How many times a year can you harvest?
You harvest once a year. Once a year.
You're in the middle of harvest now?
Well, we're actually, like on this farm, we got started a little bit late because we were preparing the soil and we had a big rainfall for almost 4 days straight. We had to stop and we didn't plant till I think it was like the last week in December. But we should have planted the second week of December, so we were delayed a little bit. I'm going to show you the tobacco now. We're going to open the door so you can see it. But so in this case here, we're a little bit behind schedule, but I mean not a big deal, but not what we would love. And the other farms, we're right on schedule. So those are progressing good.
Is 100% of your tobacco from farms you own?
No. We also have tobacco from farms,
That you buy from.
but we're getting closer to that 100%. You know, but it's difficult to harvest 100%. So you can see, like, these are all pits that are made especially for this, for the wetting of the tobacco. Okay? And again, you see more stems down there. You can see how we use those stems to.
Wow, that's amazing. So beautiful. This is after the nursery, right?
Yeah. The greenhouses are back there, and then it comes here for the plant.
And you have your own seed. You have your own.
Yeah.
This is here, the start
We harvest and everything.
of the Padron's tobacco.
There we transplant. This farm is called Villa Vieja. There's probably about 65 acres of land here. Okay, like this, we have another two farms here in Esteli that we own. We got 5 barns. We harvest almost 1,200 pounds. 120,000 pounds of tobacco, you know, on this farm. As you can see, it's fairly new. Hasn't been planted that long. You know, some of the lots in the back are a little bit more developed because those were planted first, but for the most part, it's still in the early stages of it. So this farm spreads all the way past those barns. It goes around, and then there's a big lot on the other side that comes around.
How much time from here to when the tobacco is?
This tobacco is about 2.5 weeks old. So it takes the whole process is about 90 to 110 days, depending, you know, how you want it. But yeah, it grows fast. So at about 50 days, you get the first priming, and then you start every 15 days you start harvesting. But just one cycle per year. Yeah, one cycle per year. And on this farm, we have enough barn space. Sometimes when you don't have enough barn space, you have to plant in stages, so you don't get all the tobacco coming out at the same time. So, and then those that you see back there are the greenhouses. They're empty now because we've already transplanted, but all of the seedlings that we use for our tobacco are all done in-house as well. Okay? Damaso is my great-grandfather's name. Okay, he was the first Padron to come from the Canary Islands, and he settled in Cuba. When we were looking for a new name for our brand, for the new brand of cigars that we were going to do, which is obviously still Padron, but what we were going to call it, we were at the house one day with my wife and my kids, and I said to them, if any of you come up with a good name for the cigar, I'll give you some money, you know, for your savings. And my son, not even 5 minutes after, started Googling Padron and comes out with Damaso and says, how about Damaso? And I'm thinking to myself, well, that's not a bad name. And then I kept thinking, I'm like, oh, Luis, I don't know, you know, we'll see. Then I went the next day to
didn't want to give him the money.
It can't be that easy. So then the next day, I went into the office and I said to my dad, I told him the story. He goes, man, I love that name. Let's go with it. And then that's how the name Damaso came about.
Did he get the bonus?
He got it. He hasn't got it yet. Yeah, but he'll get it. He'll get it. And see how his grades come. It's all linked to grades.
It's linked to grades.
All right, so I'm going to take you just to the other end so we can walk out, and then we'll say goodbye so you guys can get on here to stay. Whether we make 7 million or 2 million or 5 million cigars a year, we're not going anywhere. So thank you for coming.